Hey y'all, my name is Shan. Welcome to Cozy Womb Podcast. This is a series for Black fathers because Black fathers matter. Black fathers matter to me. Black fathers matter to my children. Black fathers matter when it comes to my brothers, my mentors, my friends. They matter because they set the tone for who our children look up to. They set the tone for how men, women, children, and other elderly people feel protected, feel like, everything they've struggled for was for a good cause because they've seen who they've become. And I want to, I just want to shine a light on them and hear from them in a perspective that sometimes goes unheard because no one cares to ask. Sometimes people look at fathers as if, oh, that's nothing. They're supposed to do that. Why would we, thank you for doing something you're automatically supposed to do? You shouldn't look for any, praise or any thank yous for that. That's standard. That's the basics. Do what you're supposed to do. But when you have a father that's there, that's consistent, that's available, that's attentive, that's caring, that's thoughtful, versus an absent father, versus a father that thinks his life and his now is more important than the child's future. There's a difference. There's a clear difference. And I just want to show appreciation. So this series, I've interviewed many fathers from different places, different backgrounds. And I really just want to pick their brains with different questions. So thank you for listening to Cozy Womb Podcast, and I hope you enjoy. So Dre, let me just say that it was refreshing to get to speak with him because a lot of what I wanted to ask, I didn't have to through usual conversation. He answered it. So it was really just easy to speak with him about his experiences and him making changes and his want to be in his child's life and how he pours into his kids, how he makes sure that they have joy, they have a great education, and they're able to maneuver in this world, and that's very important. So I hope you guys enjoy this episode. It's just like we could have talked for hours because there's just so much within him, and his determination is relentless, and I love it. And his upbringing is full of diverse cultures of people coming together. His wife's background, his background, his parents, his dad's determination to make sure he provided, and his determination to make sure that he challenges his kids in the right way. That way, when they get out into the world, they can maneuver, and it's very commendable. And I hope he has a happy Father's Day, and I hope you guys enjoy the episode. Thank you for listening to Cozy Womb.
What's going on, y'all? It's your girl, Lady J, creator of #4BrownGirls blog. The content of my post is to educate, uplift, support, and empower Black women who struggle with anxiety and depression. If you can relate to this, then please head over to 4browngirlsblog.com and read my post. While you're there, make sure to leave a comment and share on your social media too. If it's one thing I want you to get from my blog, is that I believe in you and you are not alone.
Here we go.
Back to the show. Well, nice to meet you.
Yep.
I feel like I've been following you for a long time, but we've never met or spoken.
Yeah.
But I'm just like, this man is running. This man is fit. This man is about his family. So I was like, I need to follow him just because he has this determination that's very like inspiring.
Thank you.
So I said, let me reach out for this series and see if he would want to talk about fatherhood. So that's why I contacted you. But for one of my podcasts, it's Cozy Womb, which is more so about parenting and the honesty behind parenting that some people don't share. They just let people find out. I wanted to speak to you for the Black Fathers Matter series because I don't feel like people talk to fathers enough, and then Black fathers is just like a thing that people talk about when things aren't going in their favor or the outcome is not that great. And I want to talk about Black fathers because I just feel like you guys are left out of the loop as if you don't have an opinion about being a father and what it is to be within fatherhood.
You know, I kind of feel like it's kind of like a no man's land kind of a thing, right? And, you know, the narrative within our community is, you know, we kind of don't, like, I talk to my friends about this all the time. Like, if you're doing the dad thing right, it's like a thankless job.
Yes.
Right? So, you know, the only ones that really get attention are the ones that aren't doing the right thing. Or the ones who are like, you know, I follow this gentleman, his name is Sean. He runs Dope Dads Only. Mm-hmm. And, you know, he's been featured in like, you know, CNN, just like, you know, so like it's either like one extreme or another.
Yeah.
And it's like a bunch of stuff in the middle that just gets left out. Like, you know, having this conversation with people, you know, about this false narrative that like Black dads aren't there is just like crazy because, you know, if I just look at my college friends, all of them who have children are like real dads.
Yeah.
And they just go about their business. And, you know, some of them are married, some of them are not, but, you know, they still take care of the kids. And it's just like, they just go about their business and like, they don't seek any attention and it just is what it is. And like that narrative gets swept under the rug. And another conversation is like, when Michaela and I had Christian, when she was pregnant like throughout the summer. So we really didn't come outside that much. You know, it was hot. She was, you know, 7-8 months pregnant. We stayed in the house, you know, under the AC. And when we came out the next spring, gentrification was just exploding in Bed-Stuy. And we came out the house like, what the hell just happened?
Yeah.
Right? And it would be so strange for people to see us together with the kids. And I laughed at that because even in the hood, you know, I tell this funny story, like even the dope boys that live across the street with me, you know when I see them the most? When they're taking their kids to school.
That never gets really talked about.
You know what I mean? And like these are cats that are like selling God knows who what, they hustling, they out here every day, whatever, but you will never see them take their kids late to school. Like whatever they did the night before, they got up the next day, they got their kids ready, they picked them up. I see them all the time. And, you know, it's kind of like this thing where it's just like, but, you know, like I said before, it's a myth that Black fathers aren't there. You know what I mean? Because at every level of our culture, the men who are having children now kind of like grew up without a dad and didn't like that and kind of like were like, okay, I'm going to reverse that trend. Now, whether they stayed in the relationship with the woman or not, like, you know, whatever. And I'm not saying that the bad dads aren't out there. You know, I know a few women who are doing it by themselves and, you know, we talk about that all the time. But at the end of the day, it's like, you know, and then even just fatherhood in general. Like I talk to my dad friends, whether they're white or Black, and it's like, you know, our wives or girlfriends or whatever, our partners will take us out to a brunch. You know, nobody says Happy Father's Day. But when we go out for Mother's Day, People are tripping all over themselves.
Yeah.
And, you know, me and Michaela talk about it all the time because it's like, yo, let's see how many people say Happy Father's Day today that don't work for the restaurant. And we say it all the time, like, it's a sham. It's like, you know, it's an excuse for, you know, Home Depot to run ads and, clothing companies to sell polo shirts and ties. And it's just like, it's what else, man? Like,
yeah. Or you can even look how many weeks before Mother's Day that there's a whole setup for something.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I'm just like, really?
And don't get me wrong, Mother's Day is important, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, you know, especially like, you know, for the kids and making memories for them and like teaching them to appreciate their mom. But like, when it comes to like Father's Day, it's just like, you know, my kids make me cards, we go out to eat, it's all great, I get celebrated at home. But like, as soon as I walk out the house, it's like
nothing.
No
engagement, no nothing.
And I don't care. And
yeah,
but honestly, I don't care.
You don't care, but at the same time, I feel like it would mean more if the appreciation was like evident.
Yeah.
People love cookies. You seldomly know anyone that hates cookies. And then you think about, okay, what does it take to make a cookie? Several things, but the main ingredient, you have to have some type of flour. And to me, when it comes to having children and being a mother or being a father, I feel like fathers are the flour to what makes a child. Yeah. So in order for me to have my great Mother's Day, I had to have a father. Whether I liked the father at one time or I don't, or I didn't, or I do, he's included in that, and it needs to be equal. And I think once the appreciation is equal, then you'll have more fathers excited about fatherhood. Yeah. You'll have more fathers wanting to be there and wanting to fulfill this role of what this means to be a dad. And you don't hear it. And then a lot of dads who are hardworking, who are single fathers, who are the mother and the father to that child, they're silent because they're working and they have their head down and they're focused. And they're not, for bragging about what they do, because it's kind of like, I'm supposed to. But at the same time, there's a lot of young men who become fathers, however they become fathers, that are clueless as to what am I supposed to be doing. And because the men who are doing such a great job aren't big on bragging about it or talking about it, they would have to find them or be around them. And then you have dads who don't really make that connection early enough to really nurture that child and be like, okay, my role was important and I caught on too late.
Yeah.
You have a huge gap of men just here missing out on the best years of their kids' lives.
Yeah, it's tough because it's like, I was married previously and got divorced when my oldest daughter was 2. Mm-hmm. But prior to that, it was like around the recession time, I was out of work. So I was home every day and I was like, Chloe's primary caregiver. And it was like, that was like a blessing in disguise of like not being at work, because men don't get to see the formative years, right. What I'm saying? And like create that, that learning experience where like you're learning about your kid and like you see their personality develop and, whatever. And then, when we divorced and separated, it was like really a struggle, a really long time struggle for, just fighting to even stay in her life. Like her mom did everything she could to like separate us. And like, it kind of was like, it's crazy because it's like, how we say like history repeats itself. So like my mom and dad divorced when I was 2. And then here I go divorcing my first wife when my daughter was 2. And I just had to like make this conscious decision, like, I think my dad got scared off a lot with my mom and just kind of like, he was around, but like wasn't around. Mm-hmm. So I was just kind of like, I'm not going to let that happen. Like, I'm just going to keep fighting this until, we get to the point where, and it took about 10, 11 years for stuff to like settle in. And, you know, it's still tough, but, you know, I tell, you know, being a parent is a conscious decision, like whether it was a mistake or not, like you knew what you were doing when you were doing it and whatever, right? And then when it happens, it's kind of like you have to just, you know, you make that decision on which way you want to go. Right. And, you know, it's just a, you know, it's a sad thing that, like, you know, some guys just kind of like go the other way, you know what I mean? And like not stay in their kids' lives when at the end of the day, it's like, you know, you have to fight through whatever is happening to like make that happen. And, you know, there's a lot of things, you know, that kind of like beat men up. Like, you know, when I was going through the court system and, you know, fighting for just visitation and, you know, a set schedule and phone calls, like, you know, when you go into family court, whatever the woman says, this is in New York, the state of New York, right? Whatever the woman says is like, you're guilty till proven innocent, right? So like I had to go to court for like 5 or 6 years. And like literally it took the judge 2 years to figure out like, oh, this guy's not a bad guy.
2 years? Yeah, because like you go to court every 3 to 6 months. And then, you know, things happen and things don't happen and whatever. And after a while, they're like, okay, this guy keeps showing up. Like he keeps filing his motions. You know, he doesn't have a lawyer advocating. So everything he's doing is by himself. And he keeps showing up. So what my question in that is, what kept you going? Like what kept that battery in your back of, I'm going to show up, I'm coming, I'm doing this, I'm doing that? I wasn't gonna let my ex-wife, like my daughter was so young at the time that I feared that she would grow up not remembering me. You know, she's 2, she's 3. How many memories do you have of when you were 2 and 3? You know what I'm saying? So it was like in the beginning, it was just like, I can't let her forget me. I can't let her grow up in the world without her remembering having any memories. Right. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, it went into phases. There was that toddler phase, and then it was like, you know, the going to school for the first time phase, and, you know, her, you know, maturity gets a little bit older, and, you know, the memories are there, but, you know, I need to be there to control my narrative and make sure that, you know, her interactions with me are about family and the family on this side and like dad, you know, because there were times where like I would pick her up for the weekend and all I wanted to do was spend time with her, but I knew she needed to go see my mom. I knew she needed to go hang out with her cousins. And it's taking away from you guys. Yeah, so it's like hours being taken away from me, but at the end of the day, it's really for her to know that she's got this whole other family over here that still cares and loves her, you know, and that's here for her. So it was like, that was what it was in the early beginning. Like, I can't let her grow up with, you know, forgetting about us and then not creating memories so that she understood that dad was there. Like, she probably doesn't know half of what happened behind the scenes, and that's cool. But like, what happened between her and I, she can at least say, oh, I remember dad taking me to the park, or, you know, taking my cousins and, you know, all of us going, you know, ice skating or just like whatever, you know what I mean? And then it became travel. Like, okay, you know, let me take her to Hawaii. Let me take her to Puerto Rico. Let me take her to LA, Disney World, this, that. And it's just, you know, just kind of like let me build memories with her and like, let me like, you know, cause you knew as a kid, all the good times you have with your parents, right? And like, you always remember that. And like Christmas and Thanksgiving and just, you know, whatever. So in the beginning, it was just like, I needed to be around for that, to set that up. So that later when she's about to be 13, it's like, we're already in a flow, you know what I mean? And like, even though we're separated, there's an understanding that, you know, dad is still there and dad is around and, you know, whatever. So. Well, thank you for like pushing through that, because a lot of dads give up.
They do. They do.
Yeah, they give up and then they hope to come back later. They hope that child will find them.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, the years that dads missed, like the pivotal kindergarten graduation, and riding the first bike and your first walk. Those are the things that really connect a parent to that child.
Yeah.
Even for me as a mom, I remember my first daughter walking for the first time and my whole body got warm and I just cried. I was happy, but I cried for no reason, because it's kind of like, man, I did so good that my child is now making her own
movements.
That's by herself, but I helped make that. And when a dad doesn't have that connection, it's kind of like your child becomes a checklist, like an errand.
Yeah.
And the worst thing a dad could ever do, or a mom, is make a child feel like a obligation, not a relationship they want to nurture. So just thank you for pushing through that.
Yeah, it's hard, man, because it's like, you're fighting the system. You know what I mean? Like, you go into family court and like they have this idea already of you, and like I said, whatever the woman goes in and says, like, that's law, and you got to fight against that. And I've got friends that like, damn, I had to go to court today. Damn, like, this is crazy. Like, damn, like, and it wears on you. I have a younger friend. He's maybe 34, 35, and he has a 3-year-old. And him and his ex were going through some things, and like the ex was just like, I'm moving, and like next week. And he was working, it was somebody that was working under me, and I literally was just like, yo, take the day off, go to family court, file this paperwork, go do this. This is exactly what you need to go do. And he was able to stop the move because he didn't understand that if a child moves out of state, the other parent has to give consent to that in writing. So he was able to like file some paperwork and stop that. And then he kind of just fought for his, I was like, yo, you got to fight for your parental rights. Like, your mom has to go in there and fight for, grandparents' rights and her own visitation. And like, this is all, and I had to like just give him the playbook. And I told him, I'm like, I'm so experienced in this, I could be a paralegal at this point. And like, you know what I mean? Like, but everything that I told him to do, he did. And, I look on Instagram now and he's playing with his daughter. He's got his time. They've got visitation set up. Things are cool with mom, whatever. But it was just like, guys don't get that. No. Like, there's no playbook. Like, there's no coaching for that. And that's the problem that I had. Like, every time I would go into court, it'd be something new because I just didn't know. So it was
even if, let's say, you wanted to know and you didn't know, like, go here, your resources.
Yes.
You have
New York State doesn't have that.
You have people set in place that be like, okay, I will help you if you give me this, you pay me this. So that was even big of you to have someone working for you that you were like, I'm going to share this knowledge.
Yeah, because I just didn't want, if you have someone that's like, yo, he was literally in the office crying. Mm-hmm. And it's like, you could see where it hurt him. So it's like, he obviously wants to be a dad. Yeah. And like, he's someone's trying to take the opportunity away from him to be a dad. Mm-hmm. And, if I have any information that can help him and give him a direction, and it's like, listen, you're going to have to do the work, but here's the playbook. This is what you need to do. And if you start doing X, Y, and Z ahead of time, the judge is going to see that you're serious. Right. And be like, okay, he's got his paperwork together. He knew exactly what was going on. And boom, his shit is together. And it was. And, one thing that I feel like that Black men don't do enough is coach the younger dudes through life.
Thank you.
You know what I'm saying? Like, a lot of it is like guys my age, we were kind of the first or second generation of like fatherless children in the crack era. Mm-hmm. And, a lot of dudes got locked up during the 90s, right? So like I can remember guys on the block where I grew up in Queens would be like, yo, like, you're a smart kid, like, don't, get off the street, mentoring, like, yo, they were doing dirt, but trying to keep other kids from doing dirt. Like, I don't think you don't really see that.
Yeah.
Like there's a lot of, cats will take young boys under the wing for some stuff that isn't positive or productive. But like no one is like taking someone under the wing to be like, yo, this is how this happens. Like this is how, starting a business works. Or like getting your LLC, or like, trademarking a name for something that you want to do. Like, I don't really see that. So it's like, I've had an older group of guys that I saw as mentors, and they did that for me. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, how would I look sitting here on all of this information and just keeping it to myself, whatever, like you got to pay it forward. But like, it's hard. Like, you don't really see enough of that. I don't know if it's the unwillingness of the older dudes to do it, or the unwillingness of the younger dudes to be coached.
I think it's both. I think the younger men seen a lot of guys who are older that feel like, you not nothing to me. I don't know you. I don't owe you anything. This owe you mentality. And then the older guys are just on this. Nobody did it for me. I don't owe you nothing. I'm not. You just, life is going to have to teach you. And it's kind of like you're leaving a void that's like generations thick.
Yep.
It doesn't make any sense.
You going to bed? Good night, Ellie. Night. All right, go to bed. See you in the morning.
I love it. I need to get like you with this bedtiming.
Stuff like that is like, I feel good that like my kids, I feel good for myself, but I feel good for my kids where like, I'm the first person they see when they wake up, last person they see before they go to bed, and like just showing up every day, they'll probably take for granted, but who cares? Like, that's good. Like, me and Michaela would talk about this with Christian, like, Christian is spoiled as hell. Mm-hmm. And we'd just be like, oh, well, like, how many young black boys get spoiled?
Is he the younger son?
He's the only son, and he's the middle child.
Oh, wow.
So he's got a younger sister and an older sister. So he's, the prince of the castle.
Oh,
and everybody loves him, and he's the, whatever. And it's like, that's great. How does that feel? Like, I'd love to have a conversation with him when he's older and be like, yo, how did that feel? Mm-hmm. Like, what was that like? You know what I mean? Like, for me, like, I don't want to throw my dad under the bus. He raised my older siblings. I have 5 brothers and a sister. I'm the second youngest.
Oh, wow.
And my first 2 older brothers, they're not his biological kids, but he raised them. So like, got to give credit where credit was due. My mom was a young mom of 2 kids when they met, and he took them in as his own boys, and they call him dad, and that's the only dad they really knew. They found their biological father later, but my dad, that's dad, And my dad wasn't around for me. He wasn't like a deadbeat. He paid his child support. He was around, but he just didn't.
It wasn't that engagement, yeah.
And he just, I felt like he should have fought a little bit more. He should have just included me in some things a little bit more or whatever. Like, we have so much in common. Like, we love sports. Like, I grew up playing basketball and football and tennis and baseball. And like, my dad came to 1 game. Like, my senior year of high school. Like, okay. So it's like, but thank God I had 4 older brothers who kind of filled the void. Like, not that my mom couldn't do it. Like, my mom is tough as nails. You know what I mean? Like, her dad was a Marine, and she grew up in a very strict household, and she ain't take no crap. And, she taught boys how to be boys. She taught us how to, like, do our own laundry and cook our own food. She used to always say, like, you're never going to depend on a woman to eat. You're going to be able to do everything yourself. And like, my dad was a really great cook, so like, my dad's Puerto Rican, and then like, Latino communities, like, dad cooks just as much as mom cooks. And like, that's just the thing. So it wasn't, but like, he just wasn't there. So it's like, I had these my older brothers who were, the closest one to me is 9 years older than me, my brother Phil, and then, so on and so forth. And I took from each one of them, you know, like there's a good part of each one of them that I took as a father figure and would listen to about certain things and, you know, whatever. And they mentored me and they always talked to me. And, you know, when I was a teenager and, you know, you go through those little teenage years and you're having issues with your parents or whatever, you know, sometimes they would whoop my ass or sometimes they would pull me to the side and be like, yo, you know, you just got to do this. It is what it is. So I learned a lot from them and I always had that in my life and I'm, you know, appreciative of that. And, you know, even as, you know, they have kids, I'm the uncle that like pays it forward. You know what I'm saying? So like my, you know, my nephews and nieces, like whenever they call me like, oh, you know, some new sneakers came out or, you know, I like this hoodie from this company, you know, I'll surprise them and, you know, whatever. But, you know, like I said before, like I had a collective of mentors, you know what I mean? And I really feel like today, like that's that disconnect, you know what I'm saying? And like, I don't like giving unsolicited advice, especially as a parent, right? Like, Isn't it the worst as a parent to have some stranger come to you and be like, yo, you should do this, you know? But like, you know, when I go to take my kids to the playground, you know, I'm in gentrified Bed-Stuy. So there's a smattering, right? There's like, you know, the affluent, upwardly mobile Black family, you know, it might be a mixed race family, or it might just be, you know, the white couple and their kids. And they're like little standoffish. Then you'll see like the cats from the projects come in with their kids. And, you know, sometimes I'll just talk with them and just ask them questions and be like, yo, how's school for your kid? Like, you know, do you do the homework with them? Like, you know, like what's going on there? And like trying to like just drop little questions to get them to ask those questions themselves.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So like, it's not like I'm just coming through with all of this unsolicited advice. It's like, yo, if you need anything, you have any questions, it is what it is. Like, let me know. You know what I'm saying? So.
And I think a lot of it is about being a human being and seeing a need and being like that help, that resource, because you are knowledgeable of X, Y, and Z. And it speaks a lot about people's character when you just do it because it's the right thing to do. It's not because I'm going to gain something from this person if I do it.
Yeah.
And thank you for doing that. I don't know.
It's really about community though, like especially with us Black folk, you know what I mean? It's like, you know, Michaela and I used to talk about this when we first moved into this place that we have, where it was like, she lived here by herself before we met. And she would always talk about like being harassed by the guys in the neighborhood, you know, cat calling and all whatever. And like, one of the first things that I did was, when I moved in with her, was I introduced myself to everyone on the block. You know what I'm saying? Whether you was a dope boy, a crackhead, you know, the person that takes care of the community garden, or, you know, whoever, I just introduced myself. Because I'm like, yo, I'm in this community, like, yo, we're together. I'm your neighbor. I'm an ally. It's about us. And if you see my wife and something's going on, like, you already know, right? So it's like, you know, I try to have, you know, some kind of community with us. You know what I'm saying? Because it's like, and like I said, I do that with the cats at the park. You know, like, it's funny, like, I'll be walking around the neighborhood and dudes will just be like, yo, what's up? And Michaela would be like, how do you know that dude? Like, he looks super scary. I'm like, yeah, but he's got these cute little twin girls, and I see him every day taking them to daycare. So he sees me with the kids, I see him with the kids, we say, what's up? You know, like, yo, because I see you, homeboy. Like, I see you every day. And I appreciate that. Like, you're holding your own, you're taking care of your shit, and like, somebody notices that. And like, yo, if no one else is gonna tell you, then I'm gonna tell you, like, keep doing your thing. Like, I like that.
Yeah, and I think with a lot of men today, they look at other people like, oh, that's a new person, they're an intruder. And you just going around, you know, introducing yourself just made everybody feel like, okay, I could put my shoulders down now.
Yeah, and then the other thing is like, you know, everyone was like weary of like, you know, well, where you from? You know what I mean? Like, you know, because, you know, Jay-Z says something like, you know, before the white people move in, the affluent Blacks move in, and they're the first gentrifiers. You know what I'm saying? So it was like, I didn't want to be seen as that. And I'm like, yo, dude, I'm from Queens. Like, I grew up on the other side. Like, I grew up in the hood. I just don't want to live in my hood. I'll live in your hood.
Right.
And I'm cool. But it's like, you know, which is why, like, you know, when the neighborhood got gentrified and like all these people start moving in and like they're not ingratiating themselves with the neighborhood, it's kind of like, oh, okay, like we don't exist. You know what I mean? And it's like the worst thing you can do as people of color is make someone who looks like you feel invisible. Like, I'm not going to talk to you. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm in the bodega every day and we see each other and I'm not going to say what's up or, you know, whatever. They talk about my dog or they'll, you know, see what's up with the kids. Like everyone on my block knows my kids. They love them. Like, you know, my son is like, you know, the mayor. Like, he says what's up to everybody. You know what I mean? And it's like, you know, my daughter, the youngest one, she's standoffish, but everybody thinks it's cute. But like, everybody knows my kids. You know what I'm saying? Because it's like, they see me with them, they see my wife with them, and it's just like, we say hello to everybody. If you're friendly, we're going to be friendly. And it's just, you know, it's, you know, the one thing, you know, we talked about before, where like, you know, if you're doing it right, like, you just don't really care. Like, you care, but you don't care. But, you know, you really want for your kids to be represented, you know what I'm saying? And like advocated for. So they're like, you know, if anything ever happens with my kids and I'm not around, I know I have a community of people that know them that will step in and be like, where's your dad? Like, where's your mom? What's going on? You know, my daughter's about to turn 13 and like, I just recently was like, okay, you can go to the bodega by yourself. Like, here's $5. And then, you know, I'll go out and I'm walking the dog later and somebody's like, oh, I saw your daughter at the store and, you know, said hi or whatever. And it's like, okay, cool. Like, mission accomplished. Like, they know that we're a family in this neighborhood and we're a unit and it's mom, it's dad, it's kids, dog, you know, whatever. And, you know, when the gentrifiers first moved in, you know, Michaela would be like, yo, these white people act like they've never seen a black dad.
Listen. It's crazy to me. And they look with amazement. I'm just like, this is okay. This is the okay space. I don't know. Like, I always wonder if my mom had the thoughts that I have now of like imagining my kids being able to go outside and go to the park and come back home like it was normal. Now I would never feel like at what age am I going to be okay with them going outside and playing?
You want to hear something crazy about that though? The time that we grew up was way crazier than this.
Yes, it's just not as shared.
But like, how old are you?
I'm 33.
Okay, you're 32. All right. So like, I'm 42, right? So like, my childhood is mid 80s to mid 90s. And when I'm talking about, that's like right in the middle of the crack era, mass incarceration, super predators, like that whole thing. Like, going to school, you had to watch out for the crackheads, the stick-up kids, the kids who were poorer than you that saw you with some dope-ass shit on that wanted to, like, you know, take your shit, and just, you know, racist-ass cops, racist-ass white people. And like, I would literally be outside from, like, 8 o'clock in the morning to, like, 8 o'clock at night as a 10-year-old. Like, on my bike. Like, my mom didn't know that I was all over Queens. And as I got older, like, riding my bike into Harlem and Brooklyn, as long as I was back by a certain time, like, we was cool. But like, now it's like, give your kid a phone and like, you can track his GPS.
I don't want to give my kid a phone.
I hear you, but like, you can't hide the world from them, right?
I know.
And what you don't want to do is like, put them in a position where like, okay, everyone else has phones, and then they're sitting there like, you know, whatever. But at the end of the day, it's like, you know, I had to do this with my sister and my oldest niece, and I had to do this even with my ex-wife. I'm like, yo, dude, like, stop thinking of technology as like this hindrance. Like, you can use it to your advantage. And like, you know, it's same thing with anything else these days, like social media, right? Social media isn't bad. Bad people put bad stuff on social media. But there's stuff on social media that you can learn, you can, seek information, people can teach you things, you can get ideas and inspiration. It's all in how you use it. Right. So it's like, I work in marketing and social media. So it's like, I understand, like, okay, what's the bad? And like, have that conversation. Like my niece, her dad isn't always around. And even when he is around, he's not the most, he's a good dude, don't get me wrong, but he's not the most, how can I say, on top of the dangers, right? So at the time, my niece is like 17, 18 years old. She's 26 now, but it's like 8 years ago at the beginning of social media and like digital phones. And she had to learn a couple of lessons the hard way. Like, she sent a boy a picture of her in a bathing suit. And next thing you know, it's on social media. And then I have to sit there and have a talk with my sister and like, yo, look, like, you can check her phone. You know this, right? Like, you can see where she's at. Like, you have to have this conversation about, like, what to share and what not to share. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying?
It's all balanced. Like, are you teaching your child that, this is reality for real, and then this is what people put on the internet? And if you're not having a conversation, giving them anything can be a negativity.
But it's about, you said what's real and like, what's reality and what's not real. But that's like really perspective. So like, are you having a real conversation with your kid? Like if they're looking at certain content on social media or on the internet, like have a critical conversation. What is this person trying to tell you? What are they selling you? What's the message here? What kind of person do you think this is?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And ask them the questions that they're thinking for themselves. And at the end of the day, when it's time that you're not there, they'll start asking those questions themselves. Like, is this for me? Is this something that I'm really into? Do I really want to do this? Like, some people just give their kids phone and then let them run wild.
Yeah.
Or devices and then let them run wild. And it's like, parents used to be amazed at us because we gave Christian an iPad early. And he was on it a lot. And they were like, well, aren't you, afraid that he's going to, develop bad habits on the iPad? And I'm like, yo, dude, like he watches Disney Junior and like he watches videos on space. He can tell you all of the gas planets and all of the, planets in the solar system and how many moons this one has. Why? Because we took the device and then we gave him the information that we wanted him to have. Yeah. And like, I have an older brother or whatever, and he's, super late on social media, and he's talking to me about the kids, and I'm like, you think it's bad now? Wait till they get to be adults. Mm-hmm. What's the technology going to be when they're adults, right? And at the end of the day, if they're not mastering the technology, we're disenfranchising our own kids.
Right. So, I let my daughter have my iPad when she was 2, and that's how she started putting together words, just remembering the keyboard. Yep. And then slowly I let her watch videos where they put letters together to make words and hear it. Yep. She was spelling my name at 3. She was spelling her name at 3. And I'm really big on giving my kids like scenarios on life. So I'll ask them just out the blue. We might be in the car. I'll stop the music and I'll say, what do you do if we're in a store and you can't find me? Who do you go to for help? Yep. What do you say? What is my first and last name? Like legally. What is my phone number? Will you go to a man that's by himself, or would you go to a woman and a man, or a woman with children, or somebody with a name tag? This is a name tag. Yep. And it's like those discussions is what's vital to how your kids are going to navigate in the world without you. If they can't do that and they can't put 2 and 2 together, they're going to struggle, and then you're going to struggle with stress later on why don't they know? They don't know because
you didn't teach them.
Yeah.
You didn't teach them.
Yeah.
We a friend of mine who has kids, he's older than me, but he started having kids after me. Mm-hmm. So we have these conversations, and he would be telling me about how he tells his son to go clean his room, and he doesn't go clean the room. He goes off and does something else. And I'm like, yo, bro, did you sit there and teach him how to clean his room?
Mm-hmm.
Like, did you really tell him, like, this is where your stuff goes? This is how you sweep. This is how you make up your bed. Like, if you didn't tell him or show him exactly what you want, you cannot expect him to then go off and then do it on their own. And, you know, when it comes to parenting, like, I have this one blanket umbrella philosophy. And that is, like, get your kids prepared to live in the world we live in. Mm-hmm. Not the world you want for them, but the one that actually exists. Yeah. And, you know, this comes up a lot now because, you know, Christian's in a class where he's like one of 3 brown kids, right? And he's in this, you know, accelerated gifted and talented program, and it's nothing but white parents. And the parent group is an amazing parent group. We're on like text messages and like we communicate all the time. We actually have like a once a week Zoom thing that we do Friday nights just to like check in with each other. Mm-hmm. And they're like, yo, when was the first time you had this conversation with Christian about racism? And I'm like, at 4. Wow. And they're like, why so early? You didn't want, like, no, like he's going to be a black man one day. Like I have to get him prepared to live in the world that we actually live in. Mm-hmm. You know, my oldest daughter, when she was 3, I had to have a conversation about colorism. Wow. It broke my heart. Mm-hmm. You know, my dad's Puerto Rican, and on that side of the family, you know, mainly they are like Taino Indians, how they look. They're dark, you know, jet black hair, but we've married into different races of Latinos, you know what I'm saying? So like there's a cousin who's lighter and a cousin, just a myriad of different shades, you know? My brother married a Cuban woman, and my kids' cousins are, you know, one is brown skinned with, you know, curly straight black hair, and the other one is light skinned with long black curly hair. And like my daughter was just like, how come I can't be light like cousin Selah? Like, I want her hair. And it was just like, you know, I had to like literally put her up. I had to like take several family photos and just put them all together, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm like, well, this is our whole family and we're different colors and there's reasons for that. Mm-hmm. But it's okay. Like, daddy's brown, like grandma's brown, like grandpa is super dark. And like, this is just who we are and these are our traits. Like, you know, no such thing as good hair. Like, it's different textures of hair. Like, I have like 3 different textures of hair on my head because of my Puerto Rican dad and my mom, who's African American, who has a lot of, you know, Blackfoot Indian in her or whatever. So like, her mom could pass for white. You know? And it's like, we had to have these conversations. And it's like, at 3 years old, I have to have this conversation with a little girl.
Yeah, I just had a discussion with my 6-year-old about race, and I just Googled different nationalities, and I pointed to them and I said, this is what Americans would say is a white person. But if we went to Europe, someone may say that they're from Russia or they're from this place. And then with my parents, both of my parents are Jamaican. And so both of my kids' dads are American. But their hair textures are different. So even when I bathe my girls, the oldest one, my 6-year-old, is saying, I wish I had Arya's hair. And I'll ask her why. Because it's just easier and it's just straighter and longer. And I said, Anya, your hair is longer than Arya's, but your hair is curly, it's tight. Arya's hair is like loose, kind of like straight curls. And Arya's hair, I can't do at night and it be done in the morning. It's a mess. And Anya's hair, I can do at night and it's done for like 3 days. And my hair is completely different from theirs. So it's kind of like, I'm always an open book to talking to them about their differences, always telling them what I like about them individually and telling them in front of each other, so they don't feel like, oh, she's better than me or I'm better than her and all of this, because it doesn't matter. Because the reality is girls always grow up thinking they want something else that's not theirs because it's better. And then when you get my age, you learn to love the fact that you're different.
Yeah.
It's just life, and you have to be honest about it and have that conversation at home before they go outside and someone tell them that's ugly, that's wrong, that's not good enough, you need to be this. And I'm not with that. And even still, my mom is one of 13 kids.
Wow.
And all of them are different shades. Most of their hair is different. My brothers, I'm one of 5 and I'm the only girl, I'm the last one. All of our shades are different, but you can see bits and pieces of my mom in our face. And I always share that with them because people of a African diaspora, we are just different. We can have kids 4 generations later that look like our great grandparents.
Yep.
And that's just how genetics work with us. And I'm all about embracing that. And that's what we have to do, is embrace it. So that's really good.
It's like my sister is, she took after my grandmother, so she's lighter than the rest of us. Mm-hmm. But same mom, same dad. And it's like, she looks just like us, but her skin tone is like, a couple of clicks lighter. Now, she's got 2 daughters. One is a shade darker than her, and one's a shade lighter than her. And both of their dads are brown like me, with the dark, kinky, nappy hair.
Yeah.
But, my youngest niece, she's got this long, curly, straight hair. And my older niece kind of like has hair like, my mom, which is kind of like, it doesn't really grow long. And it just kind of like, stops right here, but, it's thicker and it's a little bit more coarse. But the young one is like, you throw some water in that joint, grab a brush, and
that's my youngest, that's my 3-year-old. And it's just embracing the fact that you're different. And even with, teaching your family, you have to teach the outside world, because growing up and just walking around with them and pushing in the stroller, I would have people come up to me and tell me, oh, her dad must be Mexican, or her dad must be white. I'm just like, no. And you have that conversation, and they're going to walk away learning something.
I used to love having this conversation when I was with my ex-wife. She's like super light. And freckles, like, kind of like not blonde, but like, kind of light brownish hair. And we used to be at the playground, and my daughter is darker than me. And when she used to go to the playground with her alone, they would think that she was the nanny or the caretaker.
Yeah.
Or I would love the question of, they used to ask my ex-wife, which one of your parents is white? And she'd be like, neither.
Right. Blow their mind.
And then she'd say something slick like, both my parents are light, which means that at some point in our family tree, some white people raped our ancestors.
Right.
So 2 light-skinned people that come from that can make a baby that's light-skinned.
Right.
And we're still black.
Right.
And then they'd just be sitting there stunned, and we'd just be like...
Yeah, for a long time, a lot of people thought I was the babysitter to my kids. And I'm just like, no. Like,
no one thinks I'm the babysitter to my kids. They all look just like me. So it's like...
And that's the thing. So that was like one of my questions is, does it excite you to have multiple kids and they all are individually different, but they still have like you guys like in their face?
Yeah. So like Chloe, like I said, she's 13. She's about to be 13, and she's from my previous marriage. And I told my ex-wife from jump, like, yo, the genes are strong.
Yeah.
So like, don't expect much, right? And when my daughter came out, she came out red, which I attributed to, my dad's, the Taino Indian Puerto Rican has that little red skin coat.
Yeah.
And then every day from that red day, she just got darker and darker. So she looks just like me, but she's like a shade darker than me, like a tick darker.
Yeah.
And like we talked about genetics, like I think that's from my mom's dad, because my mom's dad looked like he was straight African, but they're from North Carolina. And when I got remarried, I told Michaela, like, don't expect much. The genes are strong. And she would be like, the genes are strong in my family too. And she was right. And as Christian came out like a shade lighter than me. Like he's kind of like a reddish almond kind of complexion, kind of like yours. Mm-hmm. And but he looks just like me.
I know, it's just like his little face. I'm just like, look, it's
so. And the funny thing is that when he was a toddler, he looked more like Michaela because they both have dimples.
Yeah.
So like that's one thing that he took from her was like dimples. And as he's getting older and he's about to be 7, he's kind of getting into that big kid phase. His body looks like mine, like his his bone structure, like everything. And I'm just amazed. And now even like Elle looks just like Christian did when he was that age. But she really took my mannerisms. And that's a scary thing. Like when your kids like do things that you do, like you don't know, like is it nature or nurture, right? So like but like she has these looks sometimes where she'll give somebody a scowl, and like that's me. Like I'm not when it comes to strangers, I'm not the most nice cuddly person. Like I'm on some like, you got to prove to yourself, you got to prove to me who you are, like and then I'll warm up or whatever. So like strangers will come to her, she'll just be like turning up her lip, eyebrows furl. She does it to me. She'll catch an attitude with me and look at me with my face, and I'm like,
it's almost like seeing yourself and be like, oh, I know what you want to say. You probably can't say it.
Yeah, exactly. So like, I find that interesting, and it's like watching your kids grow up with that and like seeing the differences between them. Because it's funny, like my 2 oldest, they don't have the same mom, but they're literally the same person.
That's funny.
They are literally the same person. They're always happy, always have a smile on their face, always happy-go-lucky. I don't know where that came from, because that's certainly not me.
Yeah. And
they're just like 2 peas in the pod. Like right now, they're on like Minecraft or something, building a world together. And like Ellie, the little one, she's off in the corner doing her lonely, lonesome thing like I used to do, solo dolo. But I find that fascinating. It's crazy, like how they act, how they look, who they take after, all types of stuff.
Yeah.
It's a fun part of being a parent, though. Like
it is. It's fun, and it's kind of like trippy because you're like, are y'all seeing this, or is it just me?
Yep.
I love it. What are your goals for all of your kids?
So my children are extremely intelligent, like book-wise, right? Like Christian's got this photographic memory where he like reads something one time and that's it. Like he absorbs, he's like a sponge for knowledge, right? Whereas Chloe, she's super smart, but she doesn't have the natural gift of recall that Christian has. So her brilliance is in her hard work. She grinds. Like she'll sit there and read, I think what's the last book she read? The Shining. It's like 1,000 pages.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So it's like, and she blew through the book in like a month. So like for like a 12-year-old, it was just like, and like with her, I started the whole critical thinking, piece. The other good part about that is that my ex-wife, her profession is education, and more specifically teaching teachers how to teach and early childhood development, right? So I learned a lot from her.
Yeah.
As far as like early things, right? So she's the one who got me into like asking critical questions. Like we'll read a book, like who's the protagonist, who's the antagonist, like who's the good guy, who's the bad guy, like what is this character's message, whatever. So like for my kids, like I really feel like they have everything already within them to take like that Ivy League step, right? Like on my mom's side of the family, they're highly educated, like professors and scientists and teachers. And my older brother, he went to he graduated with a degree in pharmacy. Like he's a brilliant person as far as like science and chemistry and all of this and mathematics. So but we never went, I have a couple of brothers that went to HBCUs. I went to CW Post here in Long Island, which is a really good school. I got accepted into Cornell, but I just couldn't afford it. And there's I feel like that's like their step. Like that's how they take our family to like the next level.
Yeah.
Like to test them at like the highest academic level. You know what I mean? Like when Christian was born, Michaela, she's not from here. She's from Chicago. Mm-hmm. So like she really didn't understand how New York City worked as far as like schools and public schools and your zone school and your this and your that. Yeah. And I told her from jump, like, listen, Kristen's going to take this GNT, like he's going to pass this test and, he's going to be set up to go to like the specialized high schools or like private school and high school or whatever. But like, this is the track that we need to like get him on. So like my goal for them is like, for them, honestly, I just want them to find something that they love that they can do. Cause what I do for a living, I love it. It's my passion, right? And it's something that I found in high school from my older brother who kind of brought me into like marketing and fashion and branding, and like it stuck with me. So like I want them to like compete academically at the highest level, but also find something that they can do for a living where like they feel fulfilled. And like, so, me working in like fashion, like the last 17 years, like my daughter would come to my office and like I would show her like, this is how clothes are made. Like it's designed here. It's, the technical design is done here. And like, this is how we produce it. And this is how it comes and we sell it and we market it and this. So like, I used to go to like the MoMA design store and go get like these little kits that would like help her make stop motion videos. And like now she's like wants to make YouTube videos and edit and this, and she's coding and all of this stuff. And it's just like, I want them to be able to like take their ideas and like make them reality, whether it's a business or whether it's their career, and be able to do that. And again, like I said, I think that whether they do it or not, like it's going to be their path, but like I want them to like compete academically. I'm a very competitive person, so like I kind of like mess with them. Yeah. And I tell Christian like, Chloe just got straight A's.
Not to pit them against each other.
When I was a kid, my sister's 4 years older than me, and she had no desire to do anything in school. Like she was just like, when I graduate, that's it, whatever. Yeah. And college isn't for everybody. Right. She eventually found her passion. She loves working in hospitality and the food business. She went to culinary school and like, was taught how to like manage restaurants, and she's doing that now and she loves it. She never went to college though. So like when she was, I was probably 10, she's probably 14. I would like literally pick up her books and read everything that she was assigned to in class and just be like, yo, write about this. Like, this is what the book is about. So like my mom would be like, your younger brother is tutoring you? Like, really? So like she would kind of like, and then like my brother was in college at the time. He was at Howard, and like she'd be like, your brother just made the dean's list, right? And then my brother that, graduated with a degree in pharmacy, he went to North Carolina A&T. And my mom would be like, he's a scientist, right? Like,
the aim higher was within the house.
Huh?
The aim higher was within the house.
Because it was like, you have a lot of brothers in the house. Like, so, and you're the youngest, right? So like, I was the youngest for a while, but I'm like the second youngest. That sibling rivalries are only with the younger one. Yeah. The older one doesn't care. Like, who are you? Like, get out of here. Like, but the younger one is just like, oh, I see you. Okay, you said it here. I'm gonna go after you there. So like, it's crazy because like, Chloe is brilliant in her own right, and like I said, she has like an appetite for reading that I love, and her mom is one of those people that like has figured out the system and like scholarships and this, and oh yeah, you're Black, but you're also Latina and you're a girl.
That is key.
Right? Yeah. So like she got her into this boarding school where like, it's an all girls elite boarding school, and senators have gone there, and women in business and CEOs, and like they've been around since the late 1800s and all of this stuff. And it's like she's a straight A student at this elite school, and I'd be looking at my son like, bruh, she's killing you right now. Like, I don't know what you're gonna do. And then he'll come on, he's in first grade, so like they don't really get grades, but the teacher like loves him, and like he does his work, and like he applies, as long as he's like not playing around, like he's good. But like, like that's what I perceive them, like they're all smart within their, they have like their different mental talents or whatever, but like I just feel like if they figure out something that they have a passion for, like as long as I can like kind of guide. So here's another philosophy in parenting, right? And this is I don't know if you've heard about this, or there's a book, I'll send you a link. Yeah. It's called The Carpenter and the Gardener Parent. Right?
Never heard of it.
Okay. So my ex-wife is the carpenter parent, right? Like she feels like as long as she has the right tools, she can shape and fashion my older daughter into what she thinks would be successful. And that works. It's just a philosophy. It's just different, right? Whereas myself, I feel like I'm the gardener parent, right? Like you make space and you plant a seed, and like you water it, and like you give it sunlight and you give it food, and however it grows, it grows. But like you control the outside environment, but you let them grow as they want. And like wherever they go, you just push that along.
Yeah.
So, it's kind of like just like the philosophy of, and like my ex-wife, she's on some, carpenter. She's going to make my daughter into an Ivy League student. And I'm like, okay, like, but when she comes over here, she knows that she's in the garden, and okay, like, yeah, you need to read for 60 minutes today. So, read whatever you want. I don't even care.
Well, that's good that she has both though, because it's like, I have to run with this parent, and then this other parent I get to stretch.
Yeah.
And maybe the stretching is before I run, and maybe the stretching is after I run, but it's always good to stretch. So it's like a good balance for her.
And I totally get the other side with my ex-wife. She's a Black woman, and like she was taught like, yo, you do this, like you go to school, like these are the tools that you need to like, be successful, and this is what you need to do as a woman to, X, Y, and Z. And like I totally get that, like, and I grew up, my mom would be like, yo, like, you're a Black man, like you got to be twice as smart, you got to get better grades, like you got to do things to another level just to be accepted as an equal. So like that's just your plight, like deal with it.
Yeah, it's real and it's honest. And even like when it comes to behavior, I always talk to my 6-year-old. I'm just like, you know what, Anya, because your skin color is brown, you can't act a certain way in school like most kids. You have to make sure your behavior is a certain way. And if you feel like you're angry, or if you feel like, you just don't want to do it today, you have to find something within yourself that tells you to just get through and do it, so you can get home and then you can relax. You can do whatever you want to do here. But at school, you can't act out and none of that, because they will put you in a box that you can't get out of to do other things like other kids. And that's the honest truth of how your children are looked at.
Get kids prepared to live in the world that exists.
Yeah.
And like, it just is what it is. And that was the racism conversation, came from that conversation. Like, when you go to school, you can't do what you think you want to do. And this is why. because you're black, and this is how the world views you. And there's a kid in Christian's class, this little white boy. If he was black, he wouldn't be in G&T. He'd be in special ed because he can't act. He can't control himself.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But since he's a white kid, they're like, oh, he's smart too, so we're gonna nurture and coddle him in this advanced environment.
He's just having a bad day. Yeah. My question for you is, and now that you talked about, how your kids are very within their own lane, is the fact that your children really gravitate towards learning and taking in information a way you feel appreciated as a dad, or is it another way that they make you feel appreciated as a dad?
It's funny because Christian is very empathetic to other people. So he will always, a girl in his class had a birthday party, and she went to her mom and said that Christian said something to her that made her day and made her feel special. And he just has a gift for that. Like, if he sees that you're sad, he'll try to come over and console you and cheer you up. That's just who he is. He feels people's energy, and it's just like, hey, I'm there for you. And he's like 6, and it's just like super cute, right? So like, he always does a good job. Like, when it comes to my oldest daughter, though, like, she's kind of like in those teenagers. She's trying to be a teenager right now. So like, she's like on some like whatever stuff. Yeah. But every once in a while, she'll say some things that like lets me know that she gets it. So like, she's actually started cross-country running last year. So like, one of the first things I did, I couldn't, she lives in, her and her mom live in Allentown, Pennsylvania, and like all of her track meets were like during the week, so it was tough. I couldn't get out to her track meets, but like I would drive out there on the weekend and go see her, and we go for a run. And she tries to be all cool and shit, and like, yeah, dad, whatever. But like, every once in a while, she'll just, I'll hear her talking on the phone with her friends, and it'll be like, oh yeah, my dad bought me these new Adidas to go run in, and like, they're like super comfy and they're cool, and like, so like, I know she appreciates things, and I know she might not always say it to me, but like, I get it and I hear it. The little one, she's a tyrant. Like, she doesn't care about it. She's like, whatever, dude. Like, hopefully, like, when she gets older, like, she'll like understand. But the one thing that her and I bond over is like snacks, which is funny.
She's a foodie.
Well, we call each other the snack monsters, right? Because it's like, I'm always like going back. I'm like eating their fruit snacks, or like,
that's me.
Whatever. Yeah. So like, anytime like I'll go to like the coffee shop, and like every once in a while I'll go get like this pastry, an apple leaf, right? And the little one comes by, and she's like, me too? So I'll share with her, and like, anytime I'm snacking on anything, she'll like literally just dig in my hands. Like, I was eating some cashews earlier, and she was just like, boop. Thanks, Dad, whatever. So, Christian is more verbal and out with it. Chloe like internalizes things more. So like, I know that they get it. None of them have an appreciation for things, which is good. But when you buy them stuff and it's just like broken or mishandled or misused, you're like, what the hell? Like, whatever. But, they just, we spoil them and we give them stuff, and we're just like, you know what? Me especially, like when my mom and dad divorced, my mom had 6 kids and she was by herself, and I was the last one, and she ain't have shit. So it was just like, I grew up without. So like, my brothers would buy me stuff because they were older or whatever, or I would take their hand-me-downs and be on some cool, whatever. But like, I think they appreciate that there's a difference with the stuff that they have and, how it could be. You know what I mean? Because like we make them like give away toys all the time. Like, okay, like we're gonna go donate these toys. Like,
I love that.
Like we have way too much stuff. And so I think they get it. Please, I yell at them all the time. So it's like they better get it, and I drill it into them. Like that's where I get from my mom, like that mother's guilt. Like, you know what I do for you?
Yeah. Speaking of running, what got you into running, and is that a way that you decompress from everything that's going on?
Okay, so I got into running because of an injury that I had. Up until like Christian was born, I was still actively like playing basketball, like in leagues, stuff like that. Even if it was just pickup, or like my boys would get a gym and we'd rent one out and just, whatever. So one day I'm playing ball and I went up for the ball and someone else was going up too, and they kind of like separated my shoulder. And I tore the labrum in my shoulder, and my doctor was like, okay, you can get the surgery and you'll be out for 9 to 12 months. Or you can just let it heal naturally and you'll be out for 6. So I was like, okay, no surgery. I'm gonna let it just, whatever. But in that 6 months, I gained a lot of weight because I couldn't, if you ever hurt your shoulder or anything in here.
You try not to move it, but it's everything.
Not even that. You don't know, you have no idea how it affects your movement. Like I couldn't drive because if I had to reverse, for me to do this, it was painful. So I literally sat on a couch for like 6 months and I didn't run. And this was before Christian, this was before me and Michaela got married, whatever. So my boy was just like, go running. Like your shoulder will be okay. Like you'll figure it out. So I started running a little bit then. And I kind of got hooked then, like, okay, like runner's high is a real thing. Like after a while, it was like, okay, yo, this feels fantastic, right? And then I kind of gave it up for a while. And then Michaela and I got married, and then we had Christian. And then, when you're married and your wife is pregnant, like you eat what she eats. And
you pregnant
not
too.
Doing much, you're home a lot, right? So I gained, some sympathy pounds. And then even after Christian was born, same thing. Like I wasn't working out. Like, got a young child at home. Like I got to be home, and I come home and I got to be home, and like we're eating. And I'll send you the picture on IG, but we took a picture in Prospect Park, and I saw the way my shirt fit me.
Oh no. And
it was a large shirt to begin with, when I usually wear medium shirts, but it was a large shirt and my gut was stressing those buttons. Now, people tell me that I didn't look bad. Like they're like, oh, you look good with weight on, whatever. But I didn't feel like that. I didn't feel like myself. I grew up thin. I was always a skinny kid. And like, I was maybe 225 pounds at the time, where my comfortable weight is about 175, 180.
Okay.
So that was like in the fall, like early November. And I just told myself, I said, you know what? I'm going to sign up for a half marathon to give myself a goal to train and get in shape. And now this half marathon was like 5 months away.
Okay.
So I gave myself time to like, whatever. And I got hooked on racing at that point. Because like the race is like nothing you've experienced. Like it's an adrenaline rush that I hadn't had since I was playing college football, where it was like,
wow.
And the crazy thing is like there's a lot of similarities between runners and football players. Like you have to be really crazy to put your body through that punishment. Like taking the pounding and running on concrete every day and running 20, 30, 40 miles a week to train for races, like you are insane. Like there's something.
I've seen your maps. I'm just like, so this is not a week's run. This is a day's run.
Yeah. So that was like 2016. I ran that first race.
Yeah.
And at the race, I met all of these people where it was just like, holy crap, there are running crews in New York. Like there are clubs for this. Like there's a whole like lifestyle like of people that like, you know, are just runners and like they're black and like a lot of white people, don't get me wrong. But like, you know, and like people that I knew from like the fashion and marketing and like sneaker and music industry were at the race. And I was just like, oh crap, okay. And then it just got to the point, it's funny because I ran that half marathon and then I started running half marathons. And I really like the distance of the half marathons. Like it's 13 miles, so like it's a lot, but it doesn't take all day. Like if you run a marathon, like 3 to 4 hours of your day is stood on your feet. But like, you know, you can run a 2-hour half in a decent, you know, whatever. And that's a great distance. Like, okay, I'm fine with that. And then I'm a competitive person and I'm not competitive against other people. I'm competitive with myself. Yeah. So like, how do I get to the next stage? So it went from like, how do I break 9 minutes a mile? And then, okay, how do I get 8 minutes a mile? And then, okay, so like, can I run 8 minutes a mile for 10 miles now? Now, can I get that 8 minutes a mile for 15 and then 20 and then 22? And then it's like, okay, I dropped all the way down. Now I want to run a sub 7 minute mile, but I'm going to do it in like 3 to 5 miles. So it was just like all of these games I would play in my head with myself. And then it just got to the point where it wasn't until the running made me look at my diet that I started to say to myself, well, yo, like, this is just something that I need to make into my lifestyle. Because like my initial motivation was I need to get in shape so that I wanted to be there for my kids, right? So like, I never wanted to be the old dad that couldn't do anything. So like, I wanted to be in shape so that like, I could go skateboarding with my son or, you know, go play basketball or, you know, whatever. Like I wanted to be like the active dad. But then it was like, oh shit, like my kids are gonna have kids. And like, am I gonna be like my mom, like the cool grandparent and like doing stuff and, you know, whatever. But then it was just like, when I started to get my diet involved, I looked at like my family health history and like, I've got diabetes on both sides. Like my older brother, who's like 9 years older than me, he's a diabetic. Like there's hypertension and high blood pressure. And like, then it was just like, the research that I had done for my diet to become a better runner just started enlightening me to like, okay, lifestyle changes. So like, I recently just stopped being vegan after like 3 years. So it was just like running and then like, you know, this plant-based diet. And it wasn't until like I did the plant-based diet that I really found out that what I thought was normal before was actually me feeling bad physically. Because when I went on the plant-based diet and my body detoxed and cleansed, I started to get runner's high just in the middle of the day from eating and eating clean. Your body is like flushing out every single day and like relieving toxins. And like, it was just like, holy shit, like, I could have been feeling this whole time. And I'm a person that like, yeah, I was an athlete growing up. I went to college to play football. But after that, like I was a smoker. Like I smoked a pack a day of cigarettes. Like, you know, there was a time in my life when I was young and single where I partied from Monday to Sunday. Like every single night, there was something to do. You know, me and my brother, you know, knew all the promoters in New York. My brother made god awful amounts of money, had all of these connections, and we would just go out drinking every night. And then it was just like, holy shit, like it first started with stop smoking cigarettes. And, you know, that was around the time of me running, you know, starting to run or whatever. Cause I remember like the last like pack of cigarettes that I smoked, I remember smoking a cigarette and it was just like, my chest felt like death. And I was just like, okay, I gotta stop. Like enough is enough. Like this has to end. And the running helped because it helped me detox from the nicotine, and like I went cold turkey, and it was just like total lifestyle, like, you know. So the running now, honestly, I tell people all the time, the 3 things that I do, that's family, running, work. I don't have room for anything else. Like my friends, they understand, like they totally get it. Like I don't see them as much, but they totally get it. And it's just like, running is my me time, right? Like that's my self-care, right? Like I wake up every morning, you know, Michaela's like, you going for a long run? And I'll tell her like, yeah, I'll be out for 60 minutes. And that 60 minutes, whatever I run that day, that's the time where like I can formulate my plan for the day. I can clear my head if something's bothering me. I tell people all the time, I'll go out for a run with anxiety and like a problem, and by the time I'm done, if the problem isn't solved, I have a better framework to attack the problem.
That's good.
So like now it's like, for me, it's like self-care. It's just like, I need to clear my mind. I need to release some toxins out of my body, and I need that because, you know, the older you get, the less opportunity you have to do that. And it's like, people ask me, how do I run so much? So how do I find the time? And I'm like, you don't find time, you make time. And if you're not, you know, and, you know, people are like, well, how do you get started? And I'm like, 1 mile, run 1 mile and see how you do, see how you feel. And at the end of that run 1 mile, eventually you're going to say, oh, I can run another mile and another one and another. And that's it. Come in. What's up, bud? You going to bed? Night, night. Say hi.
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 Go to bed, okay?
Night night.
Close that door behind you. Love you. Close this door too. Love you. So, you know, for people that can't really fathom the whole running thing, like if you can run a 10-minute mile, which is not fast at all.
Yeah.
You can run, if you run 3 of those miles, right? That's 30 minutes out of your day.
That's
Are
not.
you going to tell me you can't find 30 minutes in your day to do something for yourself?
That's a show. It's an episode.
Less than an episode, like, you know? So like, build it into your day. Like, yo, can I find 30 minutes to do something for myself?
Yeah. Hot yoga used to do that for me when I was in New York. Like going to hot yoga is like, you come out of that thing and you're so relaxed. It's kind of like your whole body has its own pain reliever, and you're just nobody can make me angry because I'm
but
good.
It's like finding that one thing, you know what I mean? Like where it's like for you, you know what I'm saying? So, you know, it's just, at this point, it's like, you know, I've set some kind of goals for myself, and it's, you know, last year was a tough year because I went overboard. Like I ran 4 marathons in a 12-month span.
Jeez.
And I was just like, dude, like, don't ever do that again. And it's not so much the marathons, it's the training for the marathons. Like the training is harder than the actual race. So I just had to, like, I burnt out, and I told myself, I'm like, this year I'm going to run less races and run more miles so that I can get back to enjoying running. And then COVID-19 happened, so all the races got canceled. So I ain't got no choice but to, you know, get back to getting the feeling of like, oh, I want to love running again. You know what I mean? So I'm kind of like in that sweet spot right now.
So being that you went from having horrible habits on your body to great habits on your body, when you go to the doctor, is your doctor amazed at the 360 of your health? Well,
no, because at the time that I was having those bad habits, I never went to the doctor. Like I just wouldn't go to the doctor. Like I'm 20 something years old. I'm like early 30s, and it's like my body hadn't gone through any changes. So like thank God I didn't have anything that was like detrimental to like a scare or whatever. So it was just something that I came to on my own, which thank God I did. But now it's just like I just go in for a checkup, and it's just like, all right, dude, like, how many miles are you running now? Like, are you okay? He does worry about my heart, because I stopped playing football because I had an irregular heartbeat.
Yeah.
And he thinks that like my heart rate is a little high and my blood pressure is a little high, but I don't need to do anything for it because I'm doing cardio like 5 to 6 times a week. So, whatever. But it's just when I tell people that I used to smoke, like people who've known me for a long time have seen all of the changes, right? And they're like just amazed, right? But there are people that just have met me through running, and they're like, dude, you smoke cigarettes? And I'm
That's
like,
how I am, because I'm trying to imagine you in some other state other than.
So in another life, I was a roadie on music tours. So I was maybe 23. I was really young. And I was on this tour, and I was a light social smoker. And the tour that I was on, I worked for the company that sponsored the tour. And it was a liquor company.
Oh, no.
So I was responsible for making sure like the artists in their dressing rooms had all the liquor they wanted, or what was in their rider, or, we're at a meet and greet and we had corporate sponsors in, like there'd be like, wine and champagne and whatever. So like I had access to alcohol like you would not even believe. Like I would walk into a liquor distributor and I would take what I needed for the show, and they'd be like, do you want this for yourself? Yeah. I'm like 23, right? So I'm like, and I'm on tour. There are girls. I'm trying to like, tour bus life. I've got, but I was on a bus with audio visual people who set up all the electronics or whatever. And half of them smoked. So like you work a 16-hour day on tour, and the only thing you get to do is go back to the bus and kick it with the people on your bus.
So you just end up smoking anyway.
So what happened was I had all the alcohol, so they would always give me a cigarette because they knew that whatever. So the tour goes through North Carolina. And one of the guys was like, I'm tired of you bumming cigarettes. And he bought me a carton of cigarettes, 20 packs.
What? So
if I wasn't hooked then, by the time I finished that carton, no matter how long it took me, I was hooked. And I was hooked. And this is what? Early 2000s? So this is before 9/11. So like, like early 2000s, like maybe, actually the spring of 2001. And I mean, at the time in New York, cigarettes cost like $6.
Yeah. It's so
Whereas now they're like $15, like they're like a full meal, you know what I mean?
Right.
But like, have you seen the movie Almost Famous?
No.
Google it. You'll get the reference. But I was just a young kid on a tour, and I picked up a gang of bad habits, and it was just like cool, like whatever. And I brought it home, and I smoked for. I think I was a pack a day smoker for like 8 years.
Oh no!
From like 23 to like 31, and it was just like.
I'm so glad you gave it up.
No, I did. Like I said, that last pack that I bought, it was just like, I smoked that cigarette, and it was just like, I felt like somebody took a warm blanket out of the oven and put it on my chest. And it was just like, okay, I gotta stop. Like, this doesn't feel good anymore. But honestly, when I did smoke, to wake up in the morning, get a cup of coffee, and have that cigarette felt like heaven. I used to tell people all the time, if it wasn't so bad for you, I'd still be smoking. I loved smoking that much.
I always wonder why people smoke and had coffee at the same time.
Because the nicotine and the caffeine are like, fantastical.
What is your ideal situation for a great Father's Day?
There were a couple of Father's Days where cooked breakfast and took it into our backyard and in our gazebo, and just, waffles and pancakes and fruit and, mimosas. And it was just us. And it was just me and Michaela and the kids, and that's it. Like, I would get my phone calls throughout the day, Happy Father's Day, text messages, whatever, but it was just us. Michaela likes to go out for brunch now, and I don't really enjoy it as much as she does, because it's like a lot of anxiety. It's like, people are like, holy shit, a black dad? I remember one time on Father's Day, I took my kids to the park before we went out to brunch. And this was like, it was leading up to Father's Day, so it really wasn't Father's Day yet. And I remember some black woman was just like, "Oh, it's your weekend, huh?"
Oh,
and I was just like,
why would you say that?
Because, she got baby daddy drama, and, everyone has to make you feel how they feel. So, like, they project their shit onto you.
Yeah.
And it was just like, whatever. And like, it's like being the only black person in a white space. Is someone being racist to you? Probably not. But when all eyes are on you and you're like, yo, I'm just trying to have a good time here, like,
yeah,
it's just like, whatever. So it's like, I only like go out and entertain it because, Michaela wants to feel like she's doing something for me, and I roll with it because, it's Mother's Day and Father's Day when you're married is a family thing. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, what I do for her makes me feel good that I'm doing something for her, and then vice versa, so. But a perfect Father's Day would just be like, brunch at the house with the kids, just chilling in the backyard, watching them run around, and tell, I usually make them feel guilty about, how they did mom for Mother's Day, and how dad's Father's Day gets the short end of the stick, and like I tease them about it incessantly. So
yeah, that's good. My last question for you is, if you can give any advice to dads today with all of the experience that you've had over the years, what would it be?
So are you familiar with the church CCC?
No.
Christian Cultural Center here in Brooklyn. They have a pastor by the name of A.R. Bernard, who's like a famous, it's like a mega church in Brooklyn. And the pastor is, he's on the Christian Leadership Council for the White House. He's like a big deal. He's a big time guy.
Yeah.
And I sat in on a sermon at his church one day, and he said something when I was going through my struggles with my ex-wife. He said something in a sermon that I tell younger guys and even first-time dads. He said, the relationship you have with that child's mother will dictate your relationship with that child, whether you're together or not. So if you're married or whatever, if it just happened, how you treat the mom and how that relationship is with the mom is going to dictate your relationship. So like, your job is being a dad, but then there's an extra job that's like, how is your relationship with the mom, and what are you doing with that relationship to make sure that your relationship with your child goes as smoothly as possible?
It's true. It's much better when you guys are on the same team.
Yes, but even in that, right? Like, are you arguing all the time? Does your child see you saying crazy things to mama? Because, whether you have a boy or a girl, like, that child feels protective over mom. So however you're making mom feel in this marriage, that kid is going to return that energy to you.
That's good.
So like, you know, regardless of the relationship status, if your child sees you going about it the right way with mom, regardless of relationship status, that child's going to be like, okay, he's not the problem.
Yeah. That's why I'm always big on, parents not sharing their opinions on another parent in front of that kid. Because
yes.
Just leave it alone. Whatever that parent is, that child will see.
Yeah.
Just leave it alone.
So like, Michaela would always get on me about how I would act to my ex, because like she would do some crazy stuff and I would always kind of come back to the table and be cordial and try to be like, not every conversation has to be nasty, right? She like, I don't know why you treat her so good and da-da-da. And I'd be like, because that's what makes me better than her. Like, I can't sit here and be on this pedestal and then return venom every single chance I get, because I'm just going to be doing what she's doing. Yeah. So at the end of the day, at least my daughter knows, like, okay, dad is trying to make this work.
The tit for tat never works.
It doesn't, especially in that, and especially as a black man in the state of New York with the family court systems and all of that, like, you can't win. You can't win. So it's like, it's funny because like, talking to my friends about marital, situations or whatever, and like what they go through and whatever. And like, me and my boy were talking about it, like, me and Michaela have been married 7 years now. And I'm constantly asking myself, do you want to be right or do you want to be married?
Hey. Listen.
Right? Because like, you can be right all you want, but like, what is that going to get you? So like, it's just like, one of those things where it's just like, you got to pick and choose those battles, and like, you got to make sure that, you got to live to fight another day.
And meet in the middle. This is good, man. You gave some insight on some things, and I feel like your perspective is very wide range. But in everything, you took it upon yourself to make a change in the result you had in your head the whole time. So you
gotta like, one thing that I've always tried to do is be self-critical.
Yeah.
Like, what am I doing here? And it's funny. We're like, you're the baby in your family, and like, I'm one of the youngest in my family. So you know what it's kind of like to see things going on above you, and like see both sides, right? Like your siblings and your parents and your siblings, and like, I don't think people self-critique enough, right? So like, what was good for me at 25 is not good for me at 35. And like, how do you recognize that? And like, what's the growth like? And like, what's making you grow? Is it an outside force or is it an inside force? And especially with the smoking thing, you don't want the outside force to dictate the change. Right. You want the inside to dictate what happens and move forward, right? So I made a decision to stop smoking. Like, I made a decision to do this. I made a decision to do that, because it's like, I'm looking at myself like, what the hell am I doing? Like, is this healthy? And it's funny because like, Michaela, she's really good. I've learned to trust like her with certain things, because like, she would tell me in the past, like, you can do this and I'll support you, but this is a really bad idea. And then I would go and do it anyway, And I would see that it was a really bad idea. And she would never be like, I told you so. She would just be like, okay, let's fix it, whatever. But then it'd be like, okay, how many times does that have to happen before you're like, okay, I need to take her advice. Like, I need to see what she thinks about this. Come outside of yourself. And like, like I said, I don't think people kind of get stuck on this is how I am, and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
This is my personality, deal with it. And it's like, really, dude? Like,
instead of seeing how it could possibly be if you think about it a different way.
In a different way. And it's like looking at yourself to say, yo, I fucked that up.
Man.
So, and that's, it's one thing I try to get my kids to do, right? So like, Michaela always gets at me because I'm a yeller. I'm a yeller with the kids and she hates it. But, my thing is like, don't make the same mistakes over and over again. So like, if I tell you the first time calmly, like, oh, you messed up here, like, this is what you need to do, right? Boom. And then you do it again. And it's like, hey, all right, we had this conversation.
Right.
Got to learn from this, right? And then it happens again. And then that's when I'm just like, yeah. And then it happens again. It's like, what the fuck are you doing?
My limit is 2. And then after 2, it's just like, these are your results.
Yeah, exactly. So,
But I just want to say thank you for just being the resource for so many people and be an example. Because for all of your kids, you are an example, probably in a different way for different reasons. But I feel like it's going to all hit them at the right time. And
that's the plan.
The lane that they choose. And that's the difference. If this generation didn't get in the next generation, at least that they have the foundation to be the greatness that.
Yeah, because like I feel like my parents got to a certain point, like my dad, like he grew up in Puerto Rico really poor and had like no education. So like the education part and like certain things that like my mom instilled in us. And I feel like when they split, it kind of like, that legacy kind of got stunted. And like, we went from, we were, before my mom and my dad divorced, like we were homeowners, middle class, working family, everyone's in school doing well or whatever. But like when they split, like the financial and like the economics of it, and the timing of it being the 80s and, whatever. And it's just like, me and Michaela talk about this all the time, like made a conscious decision to like, try to just like stop that slide and like take what my parents did and take it to the next level. And like, I feel like I have. And then like trying to set my kids up for them to take that next leap aside from us, you know what I'm saying? So, one thing we value, I don't know if I know you probably, you see Michaela's page, like she's got her own business. She like works from 9 to 5 and she always talks about like, yo, can I do this? And I would tell her like, our kids need to see us chasing things and like going for it. You know what I mean? Like we just had this conversation because she's kind of like at a crossroads and like, I'm telling them like, we're like in our 40s now. So like, how many times do you get an opportunity to like go for it? And like, are you going to get this opportunity again?
Probably not. Right.
And like, so yeah, it's scary to face a little uncertainty right now, but like, you've got to take this opportunity and go for it and like, just do what you can. And then the kids will benefit from watching her do that.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Same way, like, I took from my parents, like, my dad, he don't know what the hell I do for a living as long as I'm working. You know what I'm saying? Like, my dad be like, you employed? Yeah, all right, cool. Conversation about work is done. But I learned from him hard work. Like, he would get up, he managed supermarkets. Mm-hmm. So, like, my dad was up every day at 4:30 to be at the supermarket by 6, to open by 7. And he did that for 35 years straight. no complaints. He went to work, grinded out, and did his thing. So I hope that, the lessons that I took from him and my mom was the education one, like, learning never stops. It doesn't matter if you're in school or not. You got to read. You got to be informed. You got to read the newspaper, read all the news, read all the books, and da-da-da. And I remember having that conversation with my daughter, Chloe, when she was like 9. Like, you think that the school is you're going to graduate from school and that's going to be it? Nope.
Is that it?
Not going to happen.
Is this almost like the beginning of you unlearning the lies and teaching yourself the truth?
Yeah. So, hopefully, the example sets in. I know a few guys that are younger that'll be like, they appreciate the example. I've got a couple of young boys who are about to have babies, and, they know the line is always open, and, they can always come over for a drink and, figure it out and have that bonding and that male, like somebody else telling them like, yo, you good, bro. Like, yeah, she's crazy, but what else you gonna do? Like, as long as she's your type of crazy, you know what I'm saying? But, it's just, again, like, I see it doesn't happen too often these days. And like, if there's an opportunity where like I can give someone information or a kind word or some encouragement, I had a friend that just had a baby, and I'm just like, didn't I tell you to take naps before the baby was born? Like, didn't I tell you to enjoy that sleep and sleep till noon and bank those hours? Cause how you feeling right now? And they're like, bruh, like, my eyes are burning right now. And I'm like, welcome to being a parent, yo.
Yeah. But thank you so much for doing this and sharing. I really appreciate it.
It's all good. I tell people all the time, you ask, I'll talk. Like, I can talk forever, so.